Worry is a human emotion. It's a subjective interpretation to events or situations around us. It could surface as a thought, an image in our head, or a behavior. Worry could also lead us to feeling anxious. It is important to note that we all have moments of anxiousness, worry, and fear. These are for the most part fleeting thoughts or ideas. Anxiety disorder is different. It is a psychological condition that could be extremely debilitating. Anxiety can consist of many things. Sometimes just anticipation of an event could create anxiety. And since anxiety is subjective, it does not necessarily lend itself to being rational. There is a positive side to anxiety. It plays an important role in our lives. It even helps us survive challenging and sometimes dangerous situations. Day-to-day anxiety is much different than an anxiety disorder. The intensity, frequency, duration, and the impact on our lives is what separates day-to-day anxiety from an anxiety disorder. Anxiety disorder is not an actual diagnosis in of itself. It is a heading for a group of diagnoses that fall under it. Each one of these have their own criteria and cluster of symptoms. Symptoms could vary from person to person. We have included some symptoms of anxiety disorders a parent or teacher may see in a school setting. There is a physical aspect for anxiety disorders. They might not be readily observable to the outside person, but these feelings could be pretty intense. Also, keep in mind, some people with anxiety disorders do not like having attention drawn to them. Verbalizing or sharing their physical symptoms with others would not come easy. The physical component of anxiety starts off with the amygdala. This part of our brain is believed to be responsible for communication to other parts of our brain when it senses danger. It's our gatekeeper, a gatekeeper of emotions. And if it recognizes danger, it transmits its warning signals to other parts of our brain as well as our body. When the amygdala senses danger, perceived or real, this activates the flight or fight reaction. Our body then prepares for a response to what it interprets as a threat. Our brain is constantly on the alert for danger. It scans our environment to make sure we're safe. If data from the outside world is interpreted as a threat, this information is stored in our brain for the next time. Remember, this threat does not need to be a rational one, but is how it is interpreted. And the interpretation is based on our genetic wiring, life experiences, family of origin, and other factors. Now that we have an understanding of how anxiety works, let's use that information to see how it presents itself in a school setting. It is important to keep in mind developmentally, school-aged children do not do well with being able to articulate their feelings. Usually emotions present themselves as a behavior for them. If we just look at a behavior as being disruptive without exploring a possible reason for that behavior, we could be missing out on an important piece of information. This information could be extremely helpful in helping that child be successful in the school setting. Interventions are best coordinated with parents and school personnel working together. If there is an outside therapist, that is important for him or her to be involved as well. Everyone needs to understand their roles along with the limitations of what they could do. Communication between all parties is important. It is helpful to develop trust and support from the child as soon as possible. They need to see everyone working together for the same thing, making the school environment as safe and as comfortable as possible. Once we have an idea where the anxiety seems to be presenting itself, we could start forming interventions that may help. These interventions that do involve the child should be discussed in private with the child. You don't want to draw attention that will make the anxiety worse. Kids will respond differently to interventions. Strategies may need to be changed often. Goals should be set along with tasks to accompany them. These goals need to be clear, specific, and measurable. Since an anxiety disorder could be difficult to address exclusively in a school setting, outside help is usually required. This could include a therapist, psychiatrist, or both. Therapists will work with the student, parents, and school in developing coping strategies. Psychiatrists would work on medication if it is indicated. Therapy groups, both inside and outside of school, could help. Also, interventions designed for the student should be individualized according to a child's needs and abilities. There are tools that therapists use to address anxiety disorder symptoms. Therapists may use one, some, or all of these. It could be helpful for all parties working with the youth to understand what these tools are. The remainder of this video will briefly touch on some of the previously discussed tools used to address an anxiety disorder. We have also included some general tips a student may find helpful.